Ladies and gentlemen, it's been 20 years since that Derek Fisher zero point 0.4 second shot. It's crazy that it's been 20 years. I remember watching this game live. Those Lakers Spurs battle, they were something else. But everybody, I want to introduce you to my contributor guest for tonight, Philip Wilson. How's it going, man?
Doing good. Thanks for having me, man.
Philip, man, 20 years since that crazy shot. What makes this game so special is that before Derek Fisher hit that shot, Tim Duncan made that extremely difficult shot, which the crowd went nuts.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for Derek Fisher, Tim Duncan, they would have put that on the highlight reel in his career. So, what are your thoughts about 20 years of Derek Fisher shot?
I mean, man, it's so crazy. Like the shot, the series, just thinking about all the Hall of Famers that are in that series. I mean, what takes me back just to that moment is how like I feel like as a Laker fan is the fact that like we lost in the finals that year to the Pistons first of all, but I feel like what makes you enjoy talking about it is the fact that like that becomes like the big moment losing in the finals. I feel like when you just focus on that, you kind of lose all the nuance of that season. It was a crazy season, a crazy series. So like with that Lakers Spurs rivalry, that was one of the best series in the rivalry. Just thinking about that moment, that probably is the most signature moment of that entire run. When the Lakers Spurs playing each other. Because think about it, if the Lakers, if we lose that game in San Antonio, we might lose that series. So that series not just decided, who's gonna win, between Lakers and Spurs, but possibly who goes to the finals that year. I think either one who goes to the finals loses to the Pistons. You could argue otherwise, but with that pivotal shot, it's probably the biggest moment of Derek Fisher's career, one of the biggest moments in definitely Lakers history. But I would say probably the biggest moment, definitely one of the biggest shots, most clutch shots, at least of the entire century so far, 2000 for sure. So like for me, like I remember just looking back all the time, you just thinking about okay, how is someone gonna make a shot in 0.4 seconds? I'm thinking we're obviously gonna get the ball to Kobe. Shaq might get a lob or something like that. But for Derek Fisher, unexpectedly to get the ball, I think they doubled Kobe on that play because they obviously like he's a killer. You don't want him to get the ball. But for Derek Fisher to get it, come around, swing it with 0.4 seconds left. I think the biggest thing that shocked me doing my research was the fact that like I didn't know this is the Spurs tried to actually protest that call. They're like, oh, there's no way the clock started on time. There's no way he got that shot off in time. And then they actually denied it. It's something I didn't know until I researched it. And I was like, wow, they really tried to, ruin that moment for us. But nah, man, like with that shot, that was iconic. And I can't believe it's been 20 years.
That Duncan shot, it left me like stunned.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at Greg Popovich, he was stunned when he made that shot. That was hilarious. So when it was point 0.4 seconds, I'm thinking there's no way. There's no freaking way. I mean, it's either Shaq and Kobe, one of those two, but Derek Fisher out of all people, just epic. And what makes that game so special is that it was a low scoring game. Me
Mm-hmm.
personally, I missed the low scoring game, the hard tenacious defense. And the Lakers, they were up as many as 16, I remember, at one point in that game, and then San Antonio came back and rallied. But man, I missed those games, Shaq and Kobe, Duncan, and of course the big three. Obviously, it started when David Robinson was there, but that whole Spurs Lakers in the playoffs, they went at it in '99, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2008. So, and if it wasn't for Duncan's ankle injury, they would have played in 2000 as well.
Mm-hmm.
But great epic battle, and it was, I remember that was the same scenario in 2003. Game five was San Antonio. San Antonio won in a close game. They went on to close it on game six. But this time, they came close. But this time the Lakers didn't, and they ended up winning the series all the way. And it was a crazy season for the Lakers because you
Mm-hmm.
had a Kobe situation.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a lot of things that was going on. Karl Malone got hurt at one point as well. But we got to give credit where credit's due. And whether you make excuses or not, that Pistons defense, I remember watching that finals. That Pistons defense was no joke. there was no joke, no joke.
Bruh, Ben Wallace. I hated Ben Wallace as a kid. I hated Ben Wallace for so long. Like I said, as a Laker fan, and the way we lost, losing in 5 games to that great team. You know, got multiple Hall of Famers. Ben Wallace, obviously one of the greatest undrafted players, the greatest undrafted player of all time. And then going back to that series, like you mentioned, low scoring. I'm looking at all the stats here. Like, you know, you got game one, 88-78. Game two, 95-85. Game three, 105-81. Game four, 90-98. You know what I'm saying? All these low scoring, obviously the game five, that game winner shot, 74-73. And it was just some incredibly different era of basketball. I mean, shoot, I'm looking at game four, Kobe had 42 points, and the team as a whole scored less than 100. You know, the highest score for Lakers was 98. You know what I'm saying? And Kobe was going crazy in that game, hitting multiple, contested fadeaway shots over one of the best, defensive players of that era, and Bruce Bowen. So that was crazy. I was watching highlights of that before we started this call, this video. And man, like with that era of basketball, it's probably my favorite era of basketball because there's actual defense being played. You had to guard your man, you know what I'm saying? And just this with those two teams, those are obviously the two best teams of that era. So I'm watching them, Kobe in his prime, watching Tim Duncan in their prime. Kobe was obviously leading scorer in that entire series, averaging 26 points per game. You had prime Shaq still at age 31, averaging 22 a game. Having Shaq and Duncan go at it. All those guys. Kobe, Shaq, Duncan, top 10. However way you want to rate them, definitely top 10 players of all time. So I was just like, wow, like it's incredible that like of that era, because you don't really see that all the time where like the best of an era, consistently matching up against each other. Like I think about how we missed out on Kobe LeBron, that 2009 finals, or whatever times they're gonna play in the finals. But like
It should have happened in 2009.
it should have happened, bro, because they had the commercials and everything. They was ready. We was all ready to see it, but we just never got a chance to see it. You know what I'm saying? Then Miami had their run. The Lakers, started losing and things like that. So we never got that moment. But like Kobe, Tim Duncan, you know what I'm saying? We got that multiple times. So I feel like sometimes we lose sight, because we think about the series we didn't get. Kobe, Tim Duncan, those guys, the greatest of their era. You know what I'm saying? The winning 5 championships apiece. Getting those guys in the same conference, I don't think people understand the fact that like that's part of why the West is the dominant conference and has been, I think, to this day. I think it started with those two guys, because you think about in the West, it was either the Lakers win it at all or the Spurs win it all every year. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you think about that era, they carried why the West was so dominant, because you had those teams who were obviously at the top, but we think about more recently, teams had to get better to stack up with those teams. That's why I think other teams are so strong now. Think about when KD was with the Thunder, teams like that, they'd overcome the Lakers and Spurs just to get to their points as well. So I think about through the eras, other teams had to get better and improve to compete with these great teams in Lakers and Spurs. So that's why I think the West is still the strongest conference, as it is right now.
Yeah, the West has been tough for years now, man. But that's how it is. That's how it is. But switching gears, Jerry West, as we know,
Man.
passed away at the age of 86. A guy that has been surrounded by the NBA for almost 70 years as a player, as a coach, but especially as an executive. So Jerry West, I mean, when you learn about his life, his career, the man, he's been through so much, but basketball was a savior. Basketball did a lot for him. So yes, he went to 9 NBA finals and he lost a lot of them to the Celtics. One of them almost caused him to quit basketball. That's how painful it was. And me personally, I like seeing great players like that they take losses so personally, because it makes you want to go harder, grind harder. And you see, and I'm not going to mention no players because there's so many of them. You see certain players nowadays that they're not champions, they're great players, but they haven't won anything, and they take it like it's no big deal. Like you see them in clubs, social media, stuff like that. They don't take it as serious. But a guy like Jerry West, that he was so upset that he was depressed, he almost quit basketball. It hurt him that much. Like he couldn't stand losing to the Celtics, and he went that time and time and time again. Yes, he won one as a player, but hey, everything came back to a full circle. He won more titles as an executive. Going to the Hall of Fame 3 times, which is rare that you see that. But what an ultimate winner, ultimate champion. He made all stars in all the seasons he played in the NBA. And of course, we can't forget the logo. So, Jerry West, rest in peace. But hey, he lived a long life, successful one, and what more can you ask for?
Man, he was incredible, man. I think one of my favorite quotes. I think it was not that long ago. He was talking about how everybody calls themselves dogs. Everybody's a dog now in this era of basketball. Most of them really aren't. I think about how Jerry West said, "I'm a wolf. I used to hunt dogs." So he was different. He was a different type of player, man. I think about when you think about his great moments. Obviously, everyone thinks about him losing in the finals, but I think about how like even with the loss, this man is the only player. What I'm saying, you could argue LeBron could have done it in his losses to the Warriors in 2017 and 2018, but Jerry West was the only one to actually do it as far as winning a Finals MVP and a losing effort. What I'm saying? To think about a dude doing that, and he put up crazy numbers. It's not even nothing where like, oh, he got it because he was just so favored. No, he earned that. He was a bucket. Of course, Lakers should have won that finals, obviously, but I think with him earning that finals MVP in a loss, it just shows you how great he was. And honestly, we talk a lot about like resumes when it comes to the GOAT conversation, things like that. I'm not saying he's a GOAT. But when it comes to a full, like, ball is life, how everybody says that, he had one of the greatest just basketball resumes of all time. When you think about obviously his resume as a player, you mentioned he made the Hall of Fame 3 different times. And you just don't you'll never probably find a resume like that. You know what I'm saying? Just the uniqueness of it. Obviously, the player side is amazing, but I think about just the executive side is unprecedented. You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously he brought the Lakers a title in '72, one of the great teams of all time. I believe that year they won 33 straight games, finished I think with 69 wins, one of the greatest teams of all time. He did that as a Laker. Finally got a championship. I believe 1-9 in his playoff career. As far as his finals record. But just to think that okay, he didn't win as much as he wanted to, or much he should have, or however you want to say it as a player. Follows it up, brings in Showtime. What I'm saying? He ushered in that Showtime era. Obviously, had a short stint as a coach, didn't really work out, didn't really find his rhythm with that. But becomes that centerpiece of the franchise from a general manager perspective. As far as bringing that Showtime era together, we won 5 championships in the '80s. Then followed it up with bringing in my opinion, the greatest Laker ever, Kobe Bryant. I think about with Shaq when he came to our team. Obviously, that was a huge piece. But then you think about the boldness, especially at that time, to bring in a high school player, that obviously we know what he became in Kobe Bryant, but the boldness to have you got your big star in Shaquille O'Neal comes to your franchise, and then Jerry West tells him, hey, I got this young kid fresh out of high school. He's gonna be one of the best players in the world. And then lo and behold, look what he became. So I just think about just his basketball brilliance, man, and all that he brought to the game. And that's something you don't see, or something I love about Jerry West that you don't find. You mentioned some of the modern players and how different they are for just that mindset. Something I think about a lot is the fact that like players, especially of his era and around that time, is I feel like players of that era, what I'm saying, they tried to leave the game better than they left it. They wanted more for the game than just what they could get out of it, the money they could make, all that stuff. What I'm saying? I feel like nowadays, guys are focused, now more so of what they can get out of the game. What I'm saying? The money, the attention, all that, versus what they can put into it, the legacy they can leave. Jerry West, he was all about that. He was all about what he could do, for his team, what basketball meant to him. He put everything into basketball through his whole life. So I think that's what I value the most about guys like that. Where like, obviously, he's always renowned as a great player, but all the how much we revere him, it doesn't even compare to how much he loved the game. I feel like, and I feel like he showed that in multiple levels of playing, and obviously as a general manager and executive.